Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Kales, Dr. Nelson, and Matthew this morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. This is our new time, by the way. We used to be at 5 a.m., but we have changed it to 6 a.m. So good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good
We've
morning.
been moving around this past week, certainly.
I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. Really excited to be here, and I'm glad you guys are up and ready to go.
Absolutely. Well, hey, like I said, Phoenix, I'm over here in southern Utah. We're sharing some of that same heat. So a little bit later today, when the sun decides to kind of show up, we're going to get a lot of that nice sunny weather. So we'll be getting outside for sure.
Awesome. What's
So
on
Matthew,
the agenda, Dr. Nelson?
Go ahead.
What's on the agenda?
Well, that's what I was going to ask Matthew. Matthew, go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, in a couple of minutes, and then tell us your story.
Yeah, you bet. I'd absolutely love to. A little jaunt down memory lane. So my name is Matthew Helfer. And, this year was a big change for me where I decided to kind of go full time in the metabolic health space. And this is when I founded Metabolicmojo. And I live here in southern Utah, but that was not always the case. I spent the last 6 years in New York City. And before that, I was living in Los Angeles, California. And the short and skinny of it really is that, and I grew up in Boston. I should say that. I got to give a plug for back home where I'm from. The short and skinny is that I actually went into sort of my adult career as a professional actor. So, I was a theater English double major, which I'm sure my father, who was a tried and true businessman, was like, well, no one's paying for me when I'm old, So I went into the arts, really was kind of the first passion. And like many of the stories that I'm sure you've had and had the opportunity when you chat with people here, a lot of it comes from some kind of a health concern, some type of you felt like your life was taken away from you. It was no longer in your own hands, right? And that definitely was the case for me. So this is back. I have been on the carnivore diet or some variation of an animal-based ketogenic diet for well over 6 years now. And I got into it because I found myself absolutely bedridden, with chronic pain. And it was the type of pain that kept me out of the audition room. It kept me out of really my profession at large. And, your agents no longer care about you. You're not going in. You can't dance. You can't move, and so that was kind of devastating for me. And this was right around the time, let's, go back to around 2018, where this space was really starting to gain some traction, right? This is when you started to become aware of the carnivore diet. I'd heard of ketogenic diets at that time, but more severe elimination protocols kind of weren't really on the table, at least in the mainstream conversation. And this is, at least to my knowledge, when things started really buzzing, right? And I went through the standard process of what the heck is wrong with me, right? I went to all these doctors. We did a bunch of scans. Everything pointed me towards physical therapy, and nothing helped. In fact, I just kept getting worse, right? And like many people, you kind of say, there's got to be just something that I can do, right? What can I do in my daily life that just may attenuate this problem even a little bit? Because getting a little bit of life back will be better than where I was. And, I did the crazy thing, as a lot of people I'm sure you chat with do, which is I ate beef, salt, and water for 90 days to give it a go. And now my wife, at the time, girlfriend, then fiance, bless her soul, she was the one who said, I'll do it with you. Just there was nothing wrong with her, right? And that's actually, talking about my wife's story, and this will be a fun piece of the puzzle we can circle back to a little bit later. But within about 90 days, I'd say my inflammatory back pain, my body that was riddled with aches and joint pain and all that, it was about 80 to 90% better. And that was sort of a holy smokes moment, right? I said, why did not one doctor, not one, of which I saw many, just ask me what I ate? Like, what was I putting in my face every single day? And to have such a simple remediation tactic, just using nutrition, that was sort of the eye-opening moment to me, right? What that led to is something I never would have expected, right? You'd think, oh, kind of my body got back on track, but I was really coming off one of the biggest jobs I had done before I got ill, right? And so, a year's passed at this point, and all that momentum kind of was a little bit dried up in a way, which is frustrating. There's a sort of an existential crisis that kind of comes with that. But what I found was this really deep new passion. I started realizing that the more I could spend all day researching metabolic health and feel like no time has passed. And they always say time flies when you're having fun. And I kind of realized that this is something I was becoming very deeply passionate about. And one thing led to another. I started kind of coaching friends and family, seeing some massive improvement in people that I love. Specifically people with, deep long-term diabetes, which I know is very, very common for people to, put into remission on very well-formulated ketogenic diets and carnivore
Common
diets.
in our community here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Not
You no
mainstream,
longer
huh?
get surprised by someone saying, "Oh, I reversed my diabetes," but
Yeah.
outside this community, not even doctors may know about that.
It is very true. And I think that part of what makes, what you do, the two of you, and to be honest, I'm very honored to be a part of this conversation. What makes it so worthwhile is because really getting the information out there is critical, without going on too much of a tangent, but we live in the United States of America. I can understand, or I do here, and I can understand a world where I can give someone all the information and they can choose not to run with it. That's something I can accept, right? I have people that go, "Hey, what you do is a little too on the fringe for me," and they might say, "I would prefer," and I have had people say, "I'd prefer to just eat my pizza and die when I die," right? That's their choice. Totally fine. But what breaks my heart really is when people are in a position like I was, or significantly worse. And it's not lost on me that people go through worse things than being bedridden for just a year, right? But when people don't have access to the information and they're spinning their gears and they're chronically unwell and chronically trying to figure out why, that's kind of when I feel like what you do is really some, I'd say it's God's work in a way. I mean, it's really impressive. And so I think getting some of that information out is part and parcel of what makes this so valuable. In addition to obviously working with people one-on-one or one-to-many. And but yeah, so I mean, full circle to kind of wrap up that intro. I would say that moving to Southern Utah was a big change for us. We were moving away from the meccas of the acting world. I did meet my wife out here in Southern Utah at a big theater called Tuacahn Amphitheater, which is, I mean, if you haven't seen a beautiful outdoor amphitheater, this is one of the prettiest in the country. It's just nestled into Snow Canyon State Park. The backdrop are the, red cliffs of Southern Utah. We fell in love out here, and it was always our dream to kind of move back. And I said, I asked my wife, Jamie, one day sitting in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York, going, "Hey, hon, what would happen, just out of curiosity, if we put quality of life right on top of the table? Like, what would that look like?" And what that meant for us was we had easy access to nature. We had easy access to sunshine. We had local community that felt like we were very involved. And we just took the dive and moved out here. And that was when I said, you know what? I'm no longer in the Mecca. I'm finding I'm more passionate about this other thing. And that's when I decided to go full time. I felt like this was, becoming my calling. And, it's always interesting, even right now, what I'm looking around at is, as an actor, one of my part-time incomes was photography. And I'm sitting here going, how cool is it that I'm using a lot of my gear right now, to have this conversation with you? And I think the same thing about my acting career insofar as how it relates to a coaching career, right? There are certain things that I find as an actor, you are constantly putting yourself in other people's shoes. Empathy is really the name of the game, whether you're playing a good guy or a bad guy, And so I think that it's unique, at least for me, as I kind of reflect on this big change in my life, to say, wow, I'm actually using all of those skills to help people, in this in something that I'm so incredibly passionate about, and now, having the ability to help move the health needle forward for people I mean, it's hard to put into words. It feels very, very good. So, I'm very excited to be here, part of the equation. And, if you guys, I can dial in and zoom in on any of those moments. So feel free to kind of dive into it or poke holes in, wherever you want to learn more, but that's sort of a bit of my background. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we lost your audio there, Dr. Nelson.
Yes, I
There you
actually
go.
muted myself so I wouldn't interrupt you, and I forgot.
Hey, you can interrupt me anytime.
So you're talking about quality of life and the beauty and the difference. If you've been in New York City, it's very different than out in the country. And Dr. Kills and I just spent 5 days in the Smoky Mountains.
Oh,
We
beautiful.
got up every morning to that backdrop of the Smoky Mountains. Very familiar to me. I'm from Puerto Rico, so many places do look very similar, green and beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we come back home.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
But we
I
had
mean,
5 wonderful days over there, right, Dr. Kiltz?
Oh, it's beautiful, and connecting with so many beautiful human beings acting their lives. 'Cause we
right.
are all acting, are we
We're
not,
all
Matt?
actors.
We're in the theater, and
It's
it
the
was
play of
really
life,
beautiful.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's the play of life, and was so inspired by everyone that shows up, because ultimately all you do is have to get up on stage and show up. You don't have to know what you're going to be doing, what you're going to say. There's no memorization required, is there?
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty, life is, I guess you could call it planned improv, right?
It's planned improv, right? And but the challenge is, I think, because of our improper human diet, it creates a lot of anxiety and frustration and pain and sorrow and depression, that it makes it hard to even show up. Would you say?
I could not agree more. I would say that, or at least many would consider that right now we're kind of in a mental health crisis in general. I mean, we do have, technology at our fingertips. Everybody is connected yet disconnected in a way. And sometimes it becomes very hard to have real conversation. I always say that I can chat with somebody and totally understand how someone could have grown up in a different family with different values and believe something very different than I do. But if we can't have those, conversations where we both grow and learn, then, no one's really moving forward. And I think that's even more important, or at least even as relevant in this health space. I mean, there's a community now of people that are absolutely thriving on what we would consider, a species appropriate diet. And yet we also live in a world where food becomes our comfort and escape, right? I mean, I was having conversations just recently with some clients that say, hey, one of the hardest things for me is, when I'm sad or when I'm down, I used to turn to food. And now I'm 7 days, 12 days, 20 days into a carnivore diet. And I always say, hey, month one doors feel like they're closing. They do. This is a major lifestyle change. But what it's opening up for you is that, well, we all say once you do this long enough, you love what you eat. I mean, we really look forward to our steaks and our eggs and our butter, so that does change over time, but it also opens up the conversation to ask yourself, hey, what was I meat my food? What was I avoiding? Right. I mean, if every time that you're down or sad or going through something, especially in the mental health space, and food becomes your crutch, very frequently we might find that is sort of an avoidance tactic in a way, to dive into the bigger conversations, the opportunities that could come out of, the things that you have been riddled with, the things that you are down or sad or upset about. Right. So I do think that this mental health crisis is very, very challenging. And I do find that, the carnivore diet can be very, very impactful in those spaces for sure.
If you have any questions, put them in the chat preceded by, oh, I just saw one, by QQQ, please, so we don't miss it. Ali is not here today. She's traveling. Also, hashtag Mojo, not for the other Mojo, but because his business name is Metabolicmojo. And we're giving away a bottle of organ blend supplements. What do we have in there, Dr. Kills, in that organ blend mix?
They've got the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys. They got it all. And I think if you read the book by Schlenk, Eat Meat 3 Times a Day, published in 1946 ish, you'll see that all you need to do is add really great fatty meat and organ meats. If you don't want to eat the organ meats, go to the blends. I think they can be very helpful. Our good friend at James at Pluck throws it in a sprinkling, and I think our friend Linda does the same thing. There's so many, does some spices out there, so much out there. But yeah, I think it's a blend. We're blending life, and you got to put the spice. My spice is salt, and my sauce is butter. And
there we go.
Yeah, rock on. And you know, and by the way, I'm on Instagram Live and also on Kills Mighty Tribe Live. So if any of those groups have questions, please put the cues here. And if you hashtag Mojo, I'm going to work to sort of, if Kilts comes up on the prize, then I'm going to pick from one of those potentially as a winner also. Max Sarte has a question about 84-year-old mother who started Ketovore in 6 months and would like to know if she can heal cataracts with Lion. Any thoughts on that, Matt? What are your thoughts? I know Lisa's here too, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I always find that, you know, what do we always say about, you know, mainstream medicine? Where it tends to really shine, I find, is sort of with emergency care. You know, I mean, you know, the sad reality is that we have very little preventative care. And that's where sort of this nutrition paradigm becomes very, very, very powerful. And, you know, if I break my arm, I do want someone to help me out, right? You know, and so cataracts, you know, and I might even throw this back to you, Dr. Kiltz. I personally have not had a cataract specific client. You know, that hasn't been something that I've specifically tried to attenuate with a carnivore diet. You know, I would say that largely the better your health is today, the better your health span will be tomorrow. And that really is, you know, this might be a long-winded way of answering your question. I'll leave it at a maybe. You know, I'm not personally certain, but what I will say is that, especially because you did mention 84 years old, right? This is where there's a major difference between developing, you know, and being riddled with chronic disease in your 50s and 60s and having a life full of medical bills where you're not getting down on the ground with your grandkids at 70s and 80s, living and enjoying the retirement you've worked so hard for. And, you know, having all of that functionality later into life, right? You know, unfortunately, we can't do randomized controlled trials on human beings over the course of a lifespan. You know, there are some legal ramifications there, of course. And so I always like to say, you know, from a study perspective, no one can tell you, and correct me if you disagree, but no one can for certain say this will make you live longer, right? There's no way to say what diet are you going to live the longest. But what I can say is if we can push out your health curve where the later into life you are the healthiest, you are active and a participant, and this is the kicker, especially as you age, are you participating in the life that you've created? You've spent decades creating this life that I would imagine you'd want to participate in, right? You know, especially when you get to those wonderful, wise years, you know, where you get to spend time with grandkids and impart all your wisdom. It would make sense to me that people would want to push that health span curve. And so, you know, for that 84-year-old mother, I would say that give it a shot. At the very least, she's going to feel better than on any, in my opinion, any other diet that she could find. And she's going to be getting all the fatty acids, all the fat soluble vitamins, all the, amino acids. You're going to be providing her with the resources of vitality, really. And so I think that it's worth a shot. Although I will say, and be very clear, I don't have a specific cataract client. So that's sort of where I would offer my input there.
And I agree with you. It's we don't know, really, we don't know in any of these for you individually, but do it anyway, because the value of this dietary change is like phenomenal for everything. Even if it's not going to heal my aches and pains, my lifespan change, but is like remarkable.
It is. And it shows up in some of the weirdest ways, it's funny when you look back. I don't know if you felt this way, but when I look back on my experience, I did it for a specific reason. I wanted to get my quality of life back from a movement perspective, from a chronic pain perspective, right? What a lot of people don't realize is that I've had cavities every year of my life as a child. And the year before I went carnivore, I'll never forget, I went to the dentist and he said, "Hey, Maddie, I've got some bad news. You have 7 cavities," right? This is a guy, me, who flosses twice a day, brushes twice a day. I was doing all the things, right? And I had 7 cavities. So went, got them filled, took 2 appointments, cost me $2,000. And since I have been carnivore, I have not had one sensitive tooth or one cavity in over 6.5 years now. And moreover, and this is rare or random, I haven't had a canker sore. If I used to bite my cheek, I would get a canker sore every time. I have not had one. I'll never forget. I went snorkeling once, and just the salt water and the sunburn, I got a bad sunburn on my lip. And I broke out in like the worst canker sores ever. And I have not had a single one. And there's no rhyme or reason to me for why that would be the case. I just know that my body learned how to fix that. I haven't dived into the canker sore research. It hasn't been something that I've been focused on. But I will say, between the cavities and the canker sores and just oral health in general, that was something I was not expecting, but I'm very thankful for it. It was a remarkable, nuanced improvement in my life. I'll tell you that.
Laura Rose Isa from Instagram, been trying to conceive 2 years, was on keto 5 months, but turned to carnivore April 25. I'm doing OMAD, but do you believe I should stick this way of eating when trying to conceive? Answer is
yes, absolutely. And you, again, you're the specialist here, Doc, but I will tell you this, polycystic ovarian syndrome would be, one of the leading causes of infertility in America today. And roughly 80 to 90% of PCOS cases are going to have some level of measurable insulin resistance, whether it's sort of subclinical where a doctor might not catch it, whether you have cysts on the ovaries already, if they're not presenting, you still may have irregular periods or painful menstrual cycles. Largely PCOS, we can attenuate that. Absolutely. I just had a client I was working with, and this is happening younger and younger. And it's important to know that these fertility issues are very common today. So you're definitely part of a family in that regard. Okay. So, I had a gal, 18 years old, already cysts on the ovaries. Her mother hired me. And she hadn't had her period in 8 months, not on birth control. And we got her period the first month, first, second, and third, all 3 months that we were doing our work together. And, so I will say, for fertility for life, any diet that is going to be procreation, right, is going to be a diet that is species appropriate for sure. So my short answer would be yes, I absolutely would. And you are giving that future child all of the nutrients that it will need to thrive.
And when your mother is consuming the perfect human diet, which is carnivore, and in utero, you're going to be bathed with the healthiest fuel and building blocks of that are there for creation. And really, we're all here to create. And Baby making is actually our foundation. And as you spoke, more and more people are suffering from fertility issues, men and women. We've got all these labels: PCOS, endometriosis, endometritis, fibroids, adenomyosis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
On and on.
But truly, forget all the labels. It's every single cell of our bodies being damaged by a plant protein, low-fat diet. That's really it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also a lot of people need to remember that your sex hormones are made from cholesterol. And, so this whole like fear of cholesterol, this fear of sort of the saturated fats, raising, that's something that really has led us astray for a very long time. And another thing to add to that equation, just on that question, would be that I would even argue it's the best time to focus on your health is when you're trying to conceive, because, if you even just look at the studies on if a mother has gestational diabetes, right? So, let's say you were pre-diabetic going into this, eating a standard American diet. Well, the pregnancy, the natural insulin resistance that comes with pregnancy could put you over the top. And your child is, even just from the studies, 40% more likely to deal with obesity in their life just because a woman developed gestational diabetes in life. So it's a critical time. So I would say that she's right on track, and definitely a critical time to get really strict on nutrition. Yes.
Yeah. And
we have Go ahead, Dr. Gills.
We're all trying to conceive, and that's what life is about, right? And we've been postponing our reproductive procreation. We're fearful to get up on stage and do what we're meant to do in life. And Dr. Nelson, what's the most important thing in your life, like new in my life, which is our grandchildren?
Family.
Yeah, our
we
family.
we have grandchildren.
Congratulations.
Dr. Kills is 3 months old. Mine tomorrow will be 20 months old.
Wow. Congrats. That's exciting.
I told my daughter she's accomplished the only thing and the only reason I had her for is to have a
I love
it. All right. So I'm going to go from to a more serious subject here. We have a question from Doug Smith. Matt, are you related to Jim Carrey?
I am not. And, there is an actor, his name is James Marsden. And, I get his doppelganger often. And I will say he took every damn job I ever wanted out in Hollywood. I mean, he sings, he dances, he can act. That guy is a rock star. But I'm not related, unfortunately.
All right. Let's see. That's from do we have these shirts on the website already, Dr. Kills? The Meet My Food?
I don't know what's on our website. That's Ali and Scott. We got to get Nate and Ali and making sure all this stuff is on the website. We're building our e-commerce and we're working at our links to everyone that's in this space, like our good friend Matthew here, Metabolicmojo.
On the description, we do have a couple of the links for Matthew. We have some links for drkills.com. If you're not a member, go and sign up. It's free, of the Kills Mighty Tribe. We have a link for my consultations. We have a link for our different channels, of course, Dr. Kills, and I think Alia and mine are there. All right. We have more questions here. Let's see. Besides Jim Carrey's question.
Hey, we'll take all the acting questions. Very fun.
How old are you, Matt? Any detox symptoms in the 6 years eating animal-based, then carnivore diet? Any mood changes?
Any mood changes, did you say?
Yes.
Age. Well, I guess the first question, they can type this in the chat. How old do they think I am? I mean, you might as well ask it. Am I doing well, or am I looking over the curve there? I am, without the spoiler, I am 35 years old,
Okay.
or years young, I guess. You know, I always say I eat there we go, 40. Oh man, Rebecca, 28. All right, they offset. I will say, so my wife, 27, there you go. So my wife is 27. So I married a younger gal. So I always say, you know, I eat as strict as I do because I got to keep up with, you know, my young professional dancer wife, who's just an athletic monster, you know, so I gotta keep the energy going. As far as changes in mood, yes, you know, I will say, I personally have never been a depressive person, at least not by nature. I mean, obviously life can really kick you at some points, and there's the slings and arrows do come at you. You know, when I was going through the period of feeling like my career was taken out of my hands, that was definitely a very challenging period of time. But you know, for me, for mood, I would say stable energy, you know, the classics, the clarity of mind, you know, no crashing after eating, no bloating. Feels amazing to be able to eat and feel satiated. And then, you know, you feel like you could put on a bathing suit, you know, there's no bloating, none of that going on, you know? So, but from a mood perspective, I've just been quite stable. You know, if you can't tell, I'm quite an extrovert. I love people. I absolutely adore humans and other people. So, yeah, so I think mood wise it was pretty much more the same for me. Just brought out more of who I am in a way. But yeah, nothing major to report there, at least from my experience, because I wasn't necessarily coming out of some type of a mental health crisis, I guess you'd say.
All right. Let's see. We have a bunch of other questions. I'm going to try to go quickly through some of these. No Carb Barb. Hello. What is your biggest challenge when coaching patients?
That's a great question. Ooh, how to answer it in one. I would say the biggest challenge is, at least up front, dealing with carb addiction, right? This is a challenging question specifically because everyone is different. I have very different challenges with very different clients. You know, again, working with an 18-year-old who's a freshman in college, it's a very different paradigm than working with somebody who's in their 60s and has been a diabetic for 15 years and is looking to attenuate disease, right? So maybe one of the hardest things is finding the best way to reach them where they're at. You know, I think it's critical to understand where people are coming from. It's also critical, I find, to give them as much quality of life as still attenuates their disease state. Because I run into this all the time. Hey, I've got kids. As you know, Dr. Ben Bickman always said, who's a metabolic scientist for those who don't know. And he always said, hey, I've got a 4-year-old. If she makes me a grilled cheese and wants to watch daddy eat it, daddy's not going to not eat it, you know? And I said, you know, that made me think to myself, quality of life does matter. People are really living lives with other people around them. And so, you know, if I work with somebody who is a hyper performer in their career, one of their big challenges would be, man, I just can't, I don't have time to cook. What do I do? How do I eat at a restaurant? How do I eat out? That's a nuanced challenge, right? When you work with a super carb addicted person, now we're dealing with somebody that actually does not even remember when they intake their carbohydrates. Could be in the middle of the night. I've worked with people where their wives will say, you know, so-and-so got up in the middle of the night and slammed a whole bag of pretzels, you know, and now you're going, man, there's accountability that I have to add to this equation, right? So it's definitely not a simple answer. I would say that the hardest part is delivering that it is safe. I think it's very challenging for some people, especially those who have grown up in the fat phobic eras, to really wrap their head around this high fat, low carbohydrate, animal forward diet. I get the LDL cholesterol questions all the time, you know, and so really, I think delivering the safe and effective modality and giving all that information to kind of put them at ease, I'd say that's part of it. But really, each person as an individual will have a most challenging part of their story, and it will be unique to them, I would say.
Juliet Marie asks, under Doc OK, I'm off all prescription medicines except Christique. I want to wean off. By the way, that's antidepressant, I believe. I want to wean off on my own recommendations. You're not a doctor, I understand that, but she's asking for recommendations. She wants to wean up on her own. Any suggestions on temporary replacement to help with weaning symptoms?
Weaning symptoms. So when it comes to medications, as someone who is not a doctor, first and foremost, I have to say you have to work with your doctor. If you take things like blood pressure medication, for example, any variation of a ketogenic diet is going to drop that blood pressure pretty quickly. And for example, you would have to, cut your dose of your blood pressure meds pretty quickly, actually. And so when it comes to mental health is a unique challenge insofar as medication reduction is concerned. Many antidepressant medications can impair your satiety mechanisms, so I know lots of people that, it's easier to gain weight, for example, when you have lots of antidepressants or medications in general in the mix. And so I would consult your doctor, but I would also really be an advocate for yourself. I guess that's what I would say. Only you are the person who lives in your body, and you're the person who is understanding your mental well-being day to day. There is nothing wrong with you going to your doctor and offering your goal. I think it's important to have that goal and make it clear, make it stated.
And that conversation with them, yes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are afraid, my doctor's just going to tell me that I need it. I think when push comes to shove, I think the vast majority of doctors want you to be well, and even if they are not up to speed with our nutrition paradigm or really understanding the power of nutrition therapy, and Dr. Georgia Eads is making great waves in the nutritional psychiatry space. But I would say that being an advocate for yourself is going to be the best bang for your buck, full stop. If you want to use this way of eating as a way to attenuate your mental health, make that clear and tell your doctor that you want to test what reducing and weaning would look like. And that way you have someone in your corner who is paying attention to your medication and who knows about it. And I think that, that's the simplest I could state it is you just have to be an advocate for your goals, and making a holistic goal to your doctor is not weird. It's important. I think doctors really enjoy when someone says, hey, this is the route that I would prefer to go. How can you help me on that journey? I don't think they would be adverse to that.
Chuck asks, what is your typical day, week, month of eating? Do you change on holidays or birthdays? Any surprise changes to your health or your wife's health?
Yeah. I would say generally I am a creature of habit. It's interesting. My wife's a professional dancer, and when she is on a contract, this past year, she was dancing up in Salt Lake for about 9 months of the year. And so it's interesting. I find I eat different when we're not together than when we are. I'm like a simple creature of habit when I'm by myself. And then when my wife's home, she wants to make cooler meals. She wants to make things taste better with more, cream sauces and things like that. When it's at its simplest, I'm definitely a big egg fan. I'm a big butter fan. Believe it or not, and my wife and I just have different taste buds in this space. I'd be curious how you two feel about this. I gravitate towards pork. I don't know if that's something I could be shamed for that in this community, but the steaks, I love ground beef burgers. When it comes to beef, burgers are really where I get my go-to. A burger with some nice cheese and some bacon on top really hits me in the feels. And then it's funny, if we sit down and get a huge steak, I find that my wife has the appetite for steak more than I do. And I still enjoy it. Obviously, we make steaks every week, multiple times a week. But we'll do chicken thighs. We'll change it up. We'll do eggs and bacon. My wife will throw in an odd avocado here and there, an olive, some fatty fruits every now and again. But for the most part, we're pretty darn strict. It's just how I feel my best. And, it is a question I get a lot, because clients, especially when I work with young clients, they always say like, well, what's like a cheat meal? Things like that. That is always a conversation. And I'd be curious, Dr. Nelson, Dr. Keltz, how you guys deal with working with clients who may, say, hey, I just want to enjoy, I'm going on vacation with my wife. How do I do the best that I can, but go off the rails a little bit, right? I'd be curious to throw that back to you to see how you guys manage those conversations.
So I don't know if going off the rails is enjoying food the best you can, though. After you've been for a while doing this, you
Definitely.
realize that this is where it's at, and you can have as much enjoyment of a meal, eating a steak, maybe made a little bit differently or different cuts. What do you think, Dr. Gills?
Well, number one is I never cheat, I treat.
There you go. I like that.
And whatever you put in your mind and your mouth, you want to give it good energy. And that's really important. And I think pork is one of the best human foods ever created by God. And it's been maligned and improperly, in my opinion. God doesn't make bad natural things for us in general. And so I would say that it's this idea of cheating is just negative, in my opinion. I don't use the
I
negative.
agree.
I do some Kilt's ice cream, and Chris Cook in Nashville and I made a great video the other day. He's going to put out, if it's not out already, and it's just eggs, cream, and I do a little bit of a pinch of salt. I mean, that's all you really need, and it's beautiful. Made as ice cream, but small amounts of sweet are not our problems, and we're not addicted. We live in an addictive environment, and all you need to do is change your environment and toss away the pretzels and the breads and the pasta from your house and get some eggs and cream. And I even do a little bit of vanilla if you want. And some people will add, a little honey, a little maple syrup, and a little sprinkle of cane sugar. Those aren't our killers. It's the all the time.
It's the all the time ultra processed. Absolutely. I like that. Go ahead.
I eat ultra processed food all the time. My cows ultra process plants and create the most healthiest thing, along with the pigs. For sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Juliet
I really like that. I don't cheat, I treat. I really enjoy that. That's a very nice one.
Juliet Marie's asking, tell us a little bit more about your wife's carnivore journey, please.
Yes. So this is very interesting, and it's in two parts. Okay. The first part is when I started and then she joined. She did that because I was broken. Okay. So kudos to my darling wife. Would marry again, 10 out of 10. Here's what I would say. She didn't have to stay on this. There was nothing wrong with her, right? She felt great. She was dancing like an absolute beauty. And she did it for me. She stayed on it for her. And I think that's critical because so many people think, oh, I'm young and I'm healthy. I mean, when we started, this was 6 years ago, she was 21 years old. I mean, what 21-year-old is like, yeah, I'm just eating, a strict carnivore diet, more now than there used to be, obviously. But she stayed on it because she recovered better for her professional dancing, which is elite athlete caliber. I mean, when you're in a company or you're doing that type of dance work, you are not only cross-training in the gym to keep all your muscles and your connective tissue working well, but you're dancing 8 hours a day. It's very intense. So for her, she stayed on it for recovery and for how she felt. Then, and this is why I said it's a story in two parts. And this is a good chance to bring awareness to this, but there is a condition that is now starting to gain some traction as being real, which is called topical steroid withdrawal. Have you guys heard of that term?
The steroid withdrawal, whether it's oral or topical, all the same.
Yeah. And so there's all of these people that have been prescribed, topical medication for eczema, right? So my wife was born with eczema as a baby. And she was given topical steroids really from a very early age. And then she would use them anytime she had a really bad flare, right? And so the doctors would say, hey, you just gotta use this. Here's another cream. It's a little bit stronger. I want you to use it until the rash is gone and then stop. And she would do that, for let's add 20 years, right? Eventually I told her, and I went down the rabbit hole, and I said, hon, I don't think you have eczema. I mean, 90% of people grow out of it by the time they hit puberty. I mean, it's kind of like asthma in that way, right? I think you have drug withdrawal. I think your rash that is coming on your wrist and your elbow is drug withdrawal. So she decided to go cold turkey, and lo and behold, her entire body broke out in oozing, rashing, itching. I mean, it is nothing that I would wish on anybody. If you do a quick TSW, topical steroid withdrawal, Google search, it'll break your heart, especially when you see it in these young children as well. And so what's kind of really gaining traction in that space, and we're in some communities as well, specific to that, is the carnivore diet, believe it or not. And so the average heal time for this condition is 2 years. Your body literally cannot make cortisol in the skin. You're having insane swelling at the fingers and the legs. And the carnivore diet got her through that in 7 to 8 months. And it was an absolute godsend. So anyway, so that was her journey.
What causes eczema?
Walk me through it.
Plants.
Mm-hmm.
Plants cause eczema, and lean meat.
So the fatty meats. Yeah, well, yeah, it makes sense.
So you have to eat the fatty meat, eliminate the plants, and eczema goes away. And that's really the most important part of the story. So carnivore, absolutely, but fatty meat, salt water is the top of the line for healing. And one of the things I think maybe people who are, remember, your wife is 27.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So I always go, there's a new Ferrari and an old Ferrari. And then there's something in between, right? So
right, yeah.
The new Ferrari always works, feels great, looks great, all those things, but then suddenly it doesn't. And that's why carnivore is really the perfect human diet for all of us, no matter what, even if you're accomplished and feeling great. Because my good friend of mine died of cancer. He was a healthy guy, 52. And I was like, always look back and realize that guy died of plants. And it's as simple as that. So
yep.
I think what you're saying is rock on. And the beauty of the steroids is that it helped us mask what's really going on deep inside of us. And when you remove the steroids, then the plants go like a perfect environment to flourish. That's all. That's much of what's happening, I think. So that's
by the way, the topical steroids, they have about 7 different strength categories. All of them get absorbed through the skin, and you have to take into account that they may affect, you're treating the skin, but they may affect internally your levels, your own cortisol production, and it's fake. In particular, the very strong ones. I mean, the weakest one may be hydrocortisone that is sold over the counter, but even that can get absorbed through your skin in large amounts. It's not a small amounts, and they all have in the package insert a certain, especially when you're treating severe cases of eczema or psoriasis, they have recommended limits on the amounts that you can use per week.
Yep.
Question here is aged meat better than fresh meat? Can high histamine levels induce anxiety or increase cortisol? Matthew.
I would say that in general with a carnivore diet, I try not to complicate things too much. I do find that people overcomplicate.
We like the KISS principle.
Yes, the keep it simple, stupid. 100%. I mean, many people in the space have said this, but I say buy the meat you can afford. I think moving away from the standard American diet to a carnivore diet is going to make so much, is going to improve your health so drastically that, we might get down into the weeds if we try to get too nuanced. When it comes to things like histamine intolerances, it gets a little trickier. I mean, that's going to be I would recommend being sort of an N of 1 experiment for yourself. When we have carnivore, what we tend to find is like I said, I gravitate towards some different meats than my wife does, and so the important factor here is that because the diet is so simple, it's very easy for you to make one change and see how you feel or see if there's an improvement. And if you find for histamine intolerances that aged meat is causing more of a histamine intolerance than say, fresh meat, then that's a very actually simple test that you could give a try. So I would encourage you to kind of, mess around with it on your own. Really. It's something that's very within your boundaries to play with. And so I would encourage you to do so. I mean, like I always say, the beauty of this diet is many people feel for the first time that their health is in their hands. And that includes playing with it, and so when you're in this space, please feel free to say, hey, do I feel better when I have this? Or do I have a histamine intolerance when I have that? Right. So definitely feel free to play around.
Okay. This question is for Dr. Kiltz, I guess. Is the team aware of the Great British Meetup on August 2nd? It's a fundraiser for Healing Humanity. Richard Smith and Coach Stephen are speaking. Kerry and our team going live at 7 p.m.
No one invited me.
Huh? Are you going to be?
I didn't know about it yet. So
it's new to me. And we are going to be, I believe at that day, we're going to be in Keto, Orlando.
So, but we, go. Is that a virtual event? Is that what that is, or is it a in person for them?
It completely. I wasn't aware. No, I wasn't aware.
Yeah, so, I was not. But yeah, we'll be there as best we can because there's going to be some times that we can find to stop in for a little bit. Love to be there.
All right, Rebecca asks, can you address the sugar diet that is making the rounds? Mark Bell, known for his steak shakes, is touting it as the best fat loss, weight loss diet out there.
I've heard of it. I would say, I would have, I pass.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what the best weight loss diet is?
Fasting and
carnivore. Fasting.
Yes.
Fast. Don't eat food. Do we need to eat every day?
Yep.
Nope.
It's incredible. Yeah.
We
Fasting is so
powerful. Even on carnivore, you can overeat, by the way. We just spent, like I said, in Meatstock 2025, we spent several days where everything was animal-based. And we were eating just too much food anyways. By the way, Dr. Right? Rebecca was the one who took care of the Zoom call last night.
Oh, Rebecca, thank you. I was the one that mentioned Rebecca first.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you want to ask questions on Kiltz Mighty Tribe or Instagram, I'm here to grab those. And this is really great to have you here, Matt. Appreciate you.
I so appreciate you having me. I mean, truly, it's an honor. I mean, again, as someone who got into this space because I was broken, you guys are people that I've, looked up to in a large way, and so it's really an honor to be here. One thing I did want to say about that sugar thing, if I could circle back, is that, there are lots of ways, this is true, to lose weight. You can lose weight doing lots of different things, right? What we're talking about really, and what we focus on is we're losing weight because the whole system is getting healthier. You could lose weight by doing calorie deficit diets, but then you regain it because hunger always wins, right? You can lose weight from so many different modalities. What we're saying here in this space is that, and what I tell every one of my clients is that the weight loss is the least impressive thing that's happening. What's happening under the hood that is fixing your metabolic engine is way more impactful than just the weight loss. The weight loss is great. Don't get me wrong. We do want to kind of move that, target that fat and get that off you. However, it's very important for us to understand that what's happening under the hood is really where the power is. And so, sure, if Mark Bell is finding, a significant weight loss reduction on an all sugar diet. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone's found a way to do that, but I'm not going to sit here and say, or at least believe that would be a healthy longevity procreation diet.
Yeah, and throughout the years, there have been the rice and sugar diet. I mean, this is old. It's not new. But is that the most nutritious for your body?
I don't think it is. I think it would pale in comparison to any animal-based diet in general, specifically a carnivore diet. I mean, there's so much in the fat of meat that you need.
And raw fatty meat is actually what we're meant to eat. And eat the white stuff. That's it.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Amy was asking on Kill Somebody Tribe about how do you know if PCOS is gone away? And it was someone's who in menopause. And basically, I call PCOS plant-caused ovarian sickness. And,
interesting.
and I think it's the same thing as, I mean, it's all metabolic damage. It's plant poisoning. That's all it is. And so, how do you feel on carnivore? And I always speak, as you think, so shall you live. I am healthy and well is all I ever say. We've created a language of your sicknesses. Now you believe it. Now you need me. Oh, I've got you. It's a psychological game. That's what this is.
Going back to pre-beginning, someone had been asking about cataracts, and I mean, my own experience has been this. I'm almost, next month, I'll be 2 years carnivore. And February, I want to have my license renewed. I passed my exam for the first time in like 40 years. My license does not say that I need lenses to be driving.
Wow.
Because my eyesight improved. Now, it's not perfect. It's not cured or whatever you want to use, but it is better than what it was before. It's better. It's good enough to drive without that restriction. Also, just a few weeks ago, I do wear hearing aids and went to have my annual exam. It's better than the last time as well.
Fantastic.
So, and I hear people that have been longer than me, 5, 6, 7 years, still having improvements in different things after that many years. So can we say for sure 100% guarantee that everything that you have is going to improve?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well,
we can say it, right? It's going to
definitely quality of life is the most important thing. I think I stopped chasing the longevity thing because nobody can tell me for sure. Nobody lives 100 or 200 years to be able to do a study following people for 50, 100 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But
quality
of life.
And I will say, one other thing that's important, I know that, we really focus on the nutrition here, and this conversation is obviously largely around carnivore specific, but the whole lifestyle does matter, right? Getting adequate sunshine, participating in nature, I mean, all of these things, movement. I always say, a lot of people ask me, how should I exercise? And I always say, hey, well, number one, the exercise you'll do is the best one. Like, just make sure you're doing it. But two, I like to say more movement matters. I mean, your mitochondria and your body is designed to move throughout the day. And so, yes, if you do one big workout, great, but it's better to move frequently. More movement matters is what I always say, and so, getting one workout in is better than nothing. But then if you're sitting all day long and sedentary and inside, exposed to all this blue light and no nature, that's a problem, right? Exactly. You're barefoot right now, So I do find, and even
I love it. I love it that you just said movement, not exercise. Movement, right?
More movement matters.
That's it. I was just having a conversation with someone just before the live about that movement and exercise. Basically, movement is the thing.
And even being more specific, yes, we can say that, muscle mass as you age is very important. It's very powerful as an anti-aging protocol, specifically for longevity, because falling is a leading cause of death over 65 when you break your hip. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, the number one cause of muscle depletion is lack of use.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
it's the number one reason. We're all remember all of our activities have changed. I'm not as active as as when I was 16. It's a different life, and so we need to keep moving, and that's all it is. Stand up desk or just get up and walk around. When I go to these meetings, I'm often just standing. I don't sit.
Yeah.
So motion is motivating.
I mean, they had little things matter. I think what people forget generally is that the small things stacked up make big differences. And so, they did a really robust, a really cool, like bone density study. I forget if it was in Japan or China. And all they did was have women jump as high as they can 8 times, like 3 times a day. That's it. Just jump as high as you can 8 times, and they found bone density improvement, and so it's like, that is such a simple thing. It's just people don't have a routine around regular movement. And so as much as the carnivore diet is a major monumental piece of this puzzle we call health and wellness and health span, I personally really love to try to round it out. I really like to say, hey, are you perfecting your circadian rhythms by getting adequate sun in your eyes? Are you getting exposure to sun on your skin? Are you getting that nitric oxide stimulation, the serotonin? Are you getting your vitamin D levels up? Are you participating in nature for your mental health, if nothing else, right? And then, even environmental toxins are unfortunately things we have to look out for these days. I can't tell you how many people are burning phthalate-filled candles, all over their house and having all these problems with all these scents and these endocrine disruptors. And so it is something that can be rounded out, and lots of people with different specialties can add to the space. But I think it's so unique that we have such a foundational requirement, which is going to be nutrition. But then there are all these other pieces we can layer on top that really add to a robust and healthy life.
Maria asked about diagnosis with ovarian cancer after 5 months of carnivore. Stay carnivore and talk to your doctors and work together. Look at Thomas Seyfried's work on that one. Let's hashtag Mojo for our Kilts Health.
Let's do it.
Organ meat blend.
Yeah.
You have I'll give you 5 more seconds to put hashtag Mojo, and we're gonna do the drawing. We could stay here talking for a long time, but it is already at 7:02. We want to respect Matthew's time.
Oh no, I'm just honored to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Honor to have you, Matthew.
All right, so here we go.
The feral grandma, love it.
Anthony, yes, please email. You have to email Alia at drkilts.com. Some people don't email her and then are complaining that they're not getting the prizes. So you need to email Alia at Dr. spelled out drkilts.com, and she's gonna need some information so she can send you. In this case, it's gonna be the organ meat blend that we have at Kilts Health.
Let your light shine before men. Christ-based teachings.
Very important.
Thank you for being here every day. Is faith important in our lives, Matthew?
Absolutely. Big time. I mean, my wife and I we're Catholic, Irish Catholic from Boston. She's Catholic as well. Obviously grew up in Los Angeles. We moved to Utah, Mormon town, and we did a Catholic wedding in Park City. It's, it is, and I will tell you what, even, we live in a place where, there's lots of Mormons without too long of a tangent. And this is a faith-based area, right? Just by nature. I'll tell you what, the difference in just driving around and seeing these young children, it's spectacular. I mean, when we drive around LA, these 12-year-olds are trying to dress like Kardashians, and it's wild to see just the difference that a culture can make. And And I do think that these, high family values, I really value that. It's one of the reasons that we really are thankful we moved here. And I don't know what life without faith would be. And so I really hope that everybody finds what that is for them. Again, for me, grew up Catholic. I'm a good Catholic boy. So, so it matters
I
to me.
grew up in LA Catholic and lost my way, moved out of LA and found the day. God bless you, my brother.
Hey, you too.
Matthew, where can we find you?
You can find me. So at Metabolicmojo is where I'm doing, more of this type of content. And then, of course, at Matthew Helfer would just be my personal page. If you're just interested in my life, I often just repost whatever my wife Jamie posts. Follow her too, Jamie Path Helfer. You'll find her. But yeah, it's a good time. So I appreciate you being there.
You're embracing health and wellness and teaching all of us that we are responsible for our healthcare, not our doctors. And so you're giving power to the people to take control of their health. And all the information that we ever learned in medical school is online now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's in ChatGPT too. It's AI'd.
Yeah. And most of it's wrong. Most of it's wrong.
Yep. And just for life, feeling like you can take your health into your own hands and you have ownership, you will be surprised how impactful that will be to other areas of your life. So what other little pockets may not be in order, you will be surprised that when you feel like your health is in your own hands, the opportunities that may open up to you. So best of luck to you all, and bless you. And I really appreciate the time. You guys have been wonderful.
Thank you for being here. This has been wonderful. And there are a bunch of questions we haven't had, but you have a great day.
You too. If you're ever in Utah, give me a holler.
Get out
Cheers,
and go for a walk, everyone. At least a walk. All you need to do is walk. Walking is wonderful outside.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Go get some sunshine, everybody. Have a good day.
God bless.